Hello, music fans. You're watching What's New in 2024 on the Death by Unicorn channel where I talk about metal, rock, and prog music. Forgive me today because my voice may be a little bit shot. I have a bit of a cold, but I'm going to talk about 8 new albums that came out on August 23rd, give my quick first impressions of them, and talk about them in my order of preference, starting with Kingcrow and their album Hopium. This is the 8th album by this Italian band, and it's progressive metal with alternative rock influences. I'm going to put this one in my excellent tier. Before the album release, I heard the single Kintsugi, the guitar playing, keyboards, drumming, and vocal melodies reminded me of Leprous, probably around their Melina era, which is my favorite Leprous album. Except the vocals are much lower than Leprous. I think fans of the band Leprous will like this, so that's why I checked it out. I'm a huge fan of Leprous. The whole album is executed beautifully with great catchy vocal melodies, nice atmospheric soundscapes, big keyboards, nice drum grooves, cool guitar parts. They don't get too many points for originality here because they sound a lot like Leprous almost the whole way through the album, but they do this sound so perfectly that I still have to put this in my excellent tier, and I'm curious to go back and hear their older stuff in their catalog. It looks like they actually Kingcrow started before Leprous did, so maybe Leprous took inspiration from them, or maybe Kingcrow sounded different before Leprous existed, or maybe it's a coincidence that they sound similar to each other and these bands have never even heard of each other. I'm not too sure. I'm curious to explore more of the catalog to see what they sounded like before. My favorite tracks on first listen here were Hopium, the title track, which is my favorite, and Night Drive. That's Hopium by Kingcrow. Check it out. Next, I want to talk about Meer and their album Wheels Within Wheels. This is the third album by this Norwegian band. And this is kind of symphonic progressive rock, but it's got a lot of pop and art rock and indie rock influences, and even some metal influences from time to time. I heard the single Golden Circle. That got me interested in checking out the album. It has great catchy vocal hooks with both male and female vocals, great harmonies, great composition, and great emotion. If you're a fan of bands like The Deer Hunter and Bent Knee, I think you'll like this album from Meer. My favorite track after a couple listens is Something in the Water. Next, and Meer I'm also putting in my excellent tier. No near masterpieces or masterpieces this week. Now I'm moving down to my very good tier with Jon Anderson and the band Geeks and their album True. This is the 16th album by this band from the UK. It's symphonic progressive pop rock. And yeah, this is the former Yes lead singer Jon Anderson, and it's his 16th solo album, but it's his first with the backing band called the band Geeks. The single I heard ahead of time, Shine On, has nice vocal harmonies, busy bass riffing like Yes, and it sounds like a nice mix of 70s and 80s Yes music. Pretty accessible, almost pop, but has enough interesting bits to still make it a progressive rock song. The whole album continues with this accessibility and catchy melodic approach with a lot of vocal harmonies. It really embodies the spirit of the band Yes and has elements from various eras of the band's history. The second last track is a prog epic that's 16 and a half minutes long called Once Upon a Dream. And to me, this whole album is actually better than many Yes albums, like better than Heaven and Earth, Union, Open Your Eyes and Talk. I've heard some even saying that it's better than all the latest Yes music from this century, and even maybe longer, but I'm not sure I'd go that far. I really do like Fly From Here by Yes, and I think Mirror to the Sky might have a slight edge on this album, True, but this is similar in quality to The Quest, I'd say. However, if you're an old school Yes fan who really misses Jon Anderson being in Yes, I think you'll really love this album. Personally, I'd be interested in seeing Jon Anderson team up with Trevor Rabin, who did an amazing solo album last year, and Rick Wakeman, who is still a great keyboard player. I'd love to see those three make some music together, and then I truly believe it would be better and more like Yes than the band playing with the name Yes today. But this album from Jon Anderson is missing a little something special in the guitars and keyboards that players like Steve Howe, Trevor Rabin, and Rick Wakeman can bring. They aren't missing the skill in the band Geeks because these are great players in the band Geeks, but it's just this special personality that those players have that I feel they're missing that would bring that special yes magic back. Next, I want to talk about Fleshgod Apocalypse and their album Opera, the sixth album by this Italian band, and it's symphonic technical death metal. I heard the single Pendulum, and it's intensely brutal, death growls, technical guitars. There's clean female vocals that provide some melody from time to time, but most of the vocals here are harsh growls. My favorite track on first listen was Morphine Waltz, which has really fast, intense drumming, neoclassical shredding guitars, along with a great mix between the male and female vocals. Next, I'll talk about Delving and their album All Past Diverge. This is the second album by this German project. Instrumental prog rock with psych rock, krautrock, post rock, space rock, and electronic influences in my very good tier, as well as was John Anderson and Fleshgod Apocalypse. This is a musical project by Nicholas DeSalvo of Ardor, and he's based in Germany. I thought he might have been American or something, but maybe he moved to Germany. I don't know the history there. It's a very cool instrumental music with interesting progressive compositions and arrangements. A lot of electronic sounds, and it kind of blends into the background and becomes this trance-inducing space rock that I could see working well as a movie or TV soundtrack. For fans of the instrumental parts of the early Porcupine Tree albums, but then it also has some parts that sound very metal inspired, and but still hypnotic and psychedelic for fans of Ardor and Tool. I could see also fans of instrumental post rock liking this. It has a prog epic that's 13 and a half minutes long called Zodiac, so check it out if that sounds good to you. That's Delving and All Past Diverge. Last one that I'm going to mention in my very good tier is by Nile, and it's called The Underworld Awaits, and this is the 10th album by this American technical death metal band that has some doom metal influences. I heard the single Chapter for Not Being Hung Upside Down on a Stake ahead of time, and I enjoyed that. The whole album continues with this intense speed and brutality for fans of Archspire. The last song, Lament for Destruction of Time, slows the tempo down a bit. It has some female clean vocals, but it's still really heavy and evil sounding with this pulsing riff that kicks in, and it sounds so demonic, like you're just living in hell when you listen to this. So if you like really brutal, fast, technical, intense stuff, check out The Underworld Awaits by Nile. Now I'm moving into my good tier. These ones didn't quite make it to very good, but we're close. I'm going to talk about two more albums. First one, Simone Simons and her album Vermillion, the debut solo album by this artist from the Netherlands. It's symphonic metal. It's got some prog metal as well as opera and death metal influences. She's a great Dutch singer known for being the lead singer of Epica. And I'm not usually into this style of symphonic metal, but I heard Arjen Lucassen of Arion fame wrote all the music, played all the guitars and synths, and produced the album. And I'm a big fan of Arion, so and Star One and other projects by Arjen Lucassen. So that got me interested in checking this out. If you like operatic female vocals over symphonic metal music, you should like this. There are even a couple brief moments with death growl vocals. Check it out if you're a fan of Epica, Nightwish, and Arion. It sounds like a mix of those bands. Though it's not quite as good as any of the Arion albums. I do kind of get tired of Simone's voice when I hear it for a full album. She's a great singer technically, and this might be my bias just against the operatic style that she sings in. I think she works really well in Arion albums where she plays a character, so she isn't the vocalist we hear for the whole album. And I also think she could do really well in musicals, like a Broadway or something. But for a whole metal album of just her, it's good, but it just doesn't quite do it for me. And lastly, before my nose gets too ready here, I want to talk about Zeal and Ardor and their album Greif, the fourth album by this Swiss band. It's avant-garde black metal with soul, industrial, shoegaze, and melodic death metal influences. This band is led by Manuel Gagne, a Swiss-American musician. And I thought their last album from 2022 was very good, and I was looking forward to hearing this one from Zeal and Ardor. I also enjoyed the single Clawing Out, but upon hearing the full album, it didn't quite live up to their last album for me. It's still good, probably even more avant-garde, genre-bending, and experimental than their last album, but some of the experiments just didn't sound as good as the last one to me, so I'm going to put it on my good tier rather than very good. But if you're a big fan of avant-garde black metal, definitely check out Zeal and Ardor and Greif. And that's it for my first impressions of these 8 albums that came out on August 23rd. If you've heard any of these, let me know what you think of them down in the comments. Or if you check them out based on my recommendation, let me know what you think. And stay tuned till next time. Peace out.